position, then I want you to come and stand with us. Everyone here, from the Oakland Progressive Alliance, from Care for Community, from Wellstone, from Bebon. First of all, the electeds take a step forward. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Stand, yes. And then we can go ahead. Everybody, I see Moms for Housing. I see ACE. Love y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get started because it's cold out here. You all ready? Awesome. My name is Carroll Fife. I am the council member for Oakland's District 3. And although I'm proud to stand here with so many people for the same purpose, it is bittersweet because why we are here is a problem. And it's a growing problem in this country. Right now, there is an increase on the politicization of issues. People are more polarized than ever. And what happens is when people feel fear or they want to dispossess their fear on other individuals, sometimes that can result in violence and harassment. And that is something that I am not new to experiencing, but the increase in the types of harassment and the level of harassment in our incessant obsession with firearms in this state is challenging and it's scary. So I called for folks to come together and stand with me, with other Black women, with women of color to address and just I'm gonna not be emotional because I'm angry. I'm angry, but I also know the people who are sending these harassing texts and emails and voicemails, they want a reaction. They want a reaction, but I'm not going to stand here and say too much about it because I'm honored for all of the people who signed the petition that was sent out by the Oakland Progressive Alliance, and I'm honored to be standing here with our state senator, Aisha Wahab, who will be our first speaker this morning.
Thank you. I really want to start off by saying thank you to Councilmember Fife and the City of Oakland for inviting me here today. There is a lot of that Councilmember Fife and I agree on, and very small things we disagree on. But one of the things that I do want to say is I don't need to agree with Councilmember Fife's every policy decision or proposal to recognize her inherent humanity, that she is deserving of dignity and respect. Threats of rape are a particular avenue of violence that is only reserved for those of us who are not cis heterosexual men. And like Councilmember Fife, I too have been on the receiving end of such threats. Those threats become even more menacing for Black women, given the history of dehumanization towards the Black community. Smartphones create the ability for us to carry the world in our pockets. They also mean the threats of violence we receive digitally or physically carried with us, and then etched into our minds and spirits. As elected officials, our work to better our communities means we are constantly on the clock. We have to meet people where they are, whether that's in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email, voicemail, whatever the case is, in order to effectively serve. There's no shutting off the valve. Our boundaries shrink and our vulnerability increases. And that is because we seek to do good in this world. If we stay quiet about this type of abuse, the efforts to discredit the work of women of color leaders will persist, especially given the veil of anonymity offered by social media and the internet. The desire to make us shrink, cower, and be quiet will only continue. All of this is magnified for women of color, and especially Black women. If we stay quiet about this abuse, the efforts to discredit the work of women of color leaders will persist. All women experience misogyny, but not all women experience the weighty combination of anti-Black racism and misogyny that Black women are subjected to. It is a weight that is meant to create fear, crush the spirit, silence one's voice, that is meant to invisibilize those who dare to exist as public leaders. Councilmember Fife, Carroll, whatever I have done to earn your trust to be called upon to stand beside you today, I will continue to do so. And should I misstep or make any mistake, I will continue to show up with humility, because it is our humility that makes us good allies. Our humility keeps us curious about others' life's experiences. Our humility prevents us from believing we know exactly what it must be like to be a Black woman in this country, and instead remind us we can't possibly know. And that is why we need to show up in support and solidarity. I call upon all men sharing space with people who make casual jokes about violence towards women to shut them down. Don't just ignore it. Tell them you are not okay with it, because your silence will be interpreted as support. And that misinterpreted support emboldens the men who imagine an army of like-minded men behind them to enact the hate and violence we have seen across this country. So I'm hoping that all of you guys speak out and speak up for those that you love and the hate that you see. Thank you.
Up next, we have Assemblymember Liz Ortega.
Buenos días, Oakland. Buenos días, mis mujeres. Liz Ortega, Assemblymember from District 20, East Bay, Hayward, but an Oakland girl at heart. This morning, you know, as I stood here with these women, and we took that picture earlier this morning, it reminded me once again why we are here. We are here because we are powerful, powerful women of color. And that is what they are afraid of. I am here to stand with Carroll and every other Black woman that has experienced threats against their lives, against their families, against their communities. I watched Councilmember Carroll Fife stand up against hate, stand up for her community, stand up for access to health care, stand up for access to services, to stop homelessness, all the things that people don't want us to address. And as Senator Wahab mentioned, I also was faced with threats during my campaign. My child, who was used to staying at home by herself while I was out campaigning, doing her homework, could no longer do that because of these attacks. She was no longer safe in her own home because I decided to stand up to a system that usually has us as invisible until we speak up, and then we're very visible to these attacks. So now, as I go to the assembly every morning, and I stand in honor of representing our community and thousands of working families in the state. I take my oath and my pledge allegiance very seriously. And every morning I say justice for all. But unfortunately, as we've seen with the vicious attacks that are becoming more and more prevalent in this country against women of color, Black women, Latina women, immigrant women, we see API women, our first mayor right here, Sheng Thao. Let's remember history. These attacks didn't start with President Trump when he called my family rapists and drug dealers. They've been centuries of attacks. And they're not going to go away just because he's no longer in office. In fact, he's emboldened a whole group of people that are willing to leave voicemails like the one that Councilmember Fife has had to listen. And that's just one. That's just one that she publicized, not to mention the many others that we receive. So I want to close with this. I stand with every single one of my sisters up here in solidarity. And I have your back. Not just here, but in Sacramento, where I have the honor to serve with Senator Wahab, Assemblymember Mia Banta, to bring voice, to bring light, to challenge, to hold those accountable who are making these attacks and to those who are standing silent. Because while many of us are here today, many of us aren't. So I'll end with one of my favorite quotes. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Thank you.
Up next, we have Assemblymember Mia Bonta.
Thank you so much, and I want to welcome Senator Wahab and Assemblymember Ortega to Oakland, to my district that I so proudly represent, working with our Councilmember Fife, our Mayor of Oakland Sheng Thao, and our beautiful leaders here, Ms. Fortunato and Ms. Rebecca Kaplan, who decided to be here in this moment, and that's important. Oh, and we have Janani and Kevin Jenkins here as well. All right. You know, I have had the pleasure and honor of representing Oakland in the state capitol for a little over, just under 2 years. And when Carol called, I talked to her this morning, and it was very simple. I said to her, you put out a call to action to support Black women. I'm a Black woman, so I'm going to be here. It's just that simple. It is just that simple. Because the reality is, when we speak of the harm that is committed against us, you need to believe us. When we speak of the ways in which we are diminished, you need to lift us up and honor us. When we speak of the ways in which we are challenged because of our Blackness, because of our race, because of where we come from, you need to support us. It's very, very simple. We have people in positions of power, and to be a Black woman, a woman of color who steps up and decides to take a position of power, to take an elected position, it is a long, hard journey. The questions that we ask ourselves, as Ortega said, is, will our children be safe? Will our mothers be safe? Will I be safe as I walk the street, as I walk in the city hall, as I walk in the state capitol? And the real answer is no. The real answer right now in this moment is no. And so I honor Councilmember Fife for lifting up and raising a call to action for us. Because yes, the work that we do is honorable, and we choose it, and we want to do it, and we want to be able to support our communities. But Black women and women of color are the backbone of our communities. And when you take away just a little bit, when you try to diminish us, only one thing happens. We get stronger. So Councilmember Fife, thank you for lifting us up in this moment, for a call to action, again, to remind us that we are strong and that we are powerful, and that we will put aside anyone who attempts to take away our humanity. Thank you.
Up next, we have Council President Nikki Fortunato.
Hello, everyone. I want to say good morning, and despite the reason why we are here, it is a good morning because we are standing here together. We are standing here in our power as women, Black women, women of color, because we know that we keep each other safe, and that is why we're here. I am here to stand in solidarity with Councilmember Carroll Fife, with community leaders like Kat Brooks, with Black women, because I understand that the reason why I am here as the first Filipina council member of Oakland and a member of our Asian community in this role is because I stand on the shoulders of Black women who have achieved so much to pave this way for other women of color. And one of the things that I want to share that I think is really important, as leaders like Carroll are attacked, as leaders like Kat are attacked, is that we need to make sure we put the facts out there about who they are and who we are. And I can share a few facts because I've known these two particular women for a long time. They are mothers and they care about their babies and all of our babies. They are organizers. And the reason they do the work inside City Hall and in the community at great risk to themselves and their families is because they do it from a place of love. They do it from a place of making sure that all of our communities have the basic things that we need to thrive. And I personally, like you heard from other women of color who have spoken so far, have withstood these attacks, disinformation, in particular because of my role as council president and passing a very historic budget that expanded public safety. I have been vilified not only by community members, but also by elected officials and public officials. Elected officials and public officials. And so when you hear Senator Wahab and others say that we deserve dignity and respect, that is not only for us and the roles that we play, that is also for each and every member of our community. And I know that Carol and Kat and Black women like Clarissa, they have a lot at stake because they're mothers of Black boys, Brooklyn too, 2 Black boys. We know the world that we want to create, and the reason why we are being attacked is because we're disrupting the system. We're disrupting the system to create that change. Let me tell you some other facts, because I have known this woman, Carroll Fife, for a while. And then I'll wrap up and pass it along. Housing is a crisis here in Oakland. Years ago, Carroll led the effort to make sure that housing insecure tenants could purchase their homes with land trusts and become homeowners. And it is because of her that when I entered office, together with the community, we created a program here in Oakland where dozens and more families are becoming homeowners who were housing insecure tenants with land trusts, taking those homes off the market. That is a fact about Carroll Fife. And I will tell you one other fact. As we experience violence, unprecedented violence here in Oakland, we know that we need to expand our vision of public safety, the reality of public safety. We need to actually imagine a world where Black men and boys in particular have less contact with the police, with the goal of creating more safety in our communities. And that is the work that I know Kat Brooks has done. That is the reason why when Carol and I drafted and passed a historic budget in 2021, today we now have violence interrupters who are trusted in our communities. Today we have crisis responders from the fire department who are trusted in the communities. That is the work of Carroll Fife and Kat Brooks. That is why I am standing here, and I will always stand with Black women, and I will recognize as an Asian woman that I stand on your shoulders, and I am your ally, and I am humble enough to be held to account. And you know that, both of you. I am humble enough to be held to account because I know the work you are doing is for our babies. So thank you so much for having the courage to bring us together and to speak out, because we are powerful. We will not stand for the threats and intimidation, the harassment, the racism, the misogyny that we have endured for so long.
I said I was not going to get emotional. Up next, we have Councilmember Rebecca Kaplan.
This is what it means to say we will not stand idly by when people are attacked, and particularly when Black women are attacked. And these attacks are happening because people fear the kind of justice and transformation that is happening. These attacks are a sign of the success of these incredible Black women leaders. Let us all give a round of applause and say that we will not stand idly by. Whether it is individuals leaving disgusting voicemails, putting comments online, whether it is the right-wing white supremacist Proud Boys coming into Alameda County to attack people in our communities, whether it is a politician at the national level raising hate, or whether it is one at the local level raising hate as part of a political strategy. We will say that we will not stand idly by. We will speak out. We will denounce the racism. We will denounce the sexism. We will stand up for each other and together, and remain committed to a vision of a community where there is justice in housing, where there is justice in jobs, where there is access to resources, where we fight for respect and equity, not only with our words, but with our actual resources, and make sure that the historic disinvestment in Black communities is remedied, not only with a philosophy of respect, but is remedied with tangible actions where we ensure that housing and jobs and healthcare and basic services are available, and that we remedy the racism of redlining and the racism of toxic concentrations on Black communities, and that we remedy the racism in underinvestment in contracts and underinvestment in jobs. And that is what Carroll Fife and Kat Brooks and others who are being attacked have been fighting for, and fighting for successfully, by the way. Fighting for success. And so I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful to get to work together. And I am committed to remaining in the fight ahead as we continue to uplift justice with our words and with our actions. Thank you.
Okay, we have two more speakers, and up next, I'm going to call one of the individuals whose name you've heard several times this morning, and that is Kat Brooks.
What's up, Oakland? Oh, come on, make some noise. What's up, Oakland? Good morning. Good morning. This is so powerful. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here. Because as Carol probably said before I got here, and I can attest to, it is lonely a lot being a Black woman. Yes. I want to thank Carol for sounding the alarm bell, because the reality is most of us just knuckle up and keep doing the work. Because let me be clear, the work is going to continue. Through your threats, your actions, your voicemails, your emails, your social, your Twitter warrior messages, the work is going to continue. I'm not an elected. Some of y'all treat me like one, but I'm not. But I am in these streets. And I'm in these streets bucking up against one of the most violent institutions in the world. An institution that says it's supposed to protect and serve, but an institution that is responsible for one in a thousand Black men will die at the hands of law enforcement. And people don't like what I have to say. It's because they don't like what I have to say. They think it is okay to threaten my life, to threaten my home, to threaten my child. The first attack I got that I remember 14 years ago was a threat of sexual assault against my then, what was she, 9-year-old daughter? That was the first one. And things haven't gotten much better since then. I had to move out of the home that I've been in for 13 years because it got so hot. And now that I'm in my new home, someone saw fit to go on a Nextdoor, that racist platform, and suggest that they publicize my address and come to my house and bust out on my windows. My daughter, who's still in that house. It is unacceptable. It is vile. It is vicious. And I want to be clear, it's also not just here. It's not just here in Oakland. It's not just here in California. It is across this country that Black women's lives are under attack. But I did, as I was talking to someone about how we're going to protect ourselves, right? Working with Community Ready Corps and others, that there are 15 active either electeds or community leaders that are Black women that they have identified whose lives are under threat just in this state. That's right now, in this moment, there are 15 women whose lives have valid threats against them because they believe in social justice, because they believe in equity, because they believe in housing for all, because they believe that the state shouldn't kill us, because they believe that it's a right for everybody to have health care, because that's what Black women do. We get up every day, and most of us, a lot of us, spend every second either trying to survive the oppression in this country or eliminate it once and for all. That's what we do every single day. So when you see Black women, smile at them. Let them know you got their back. And to Nikki's point, I think it was Nikki, Councilmember Bass, sorry, that said, or somebody said, if you hear or if you see, I am stunned at the silence. I'm stunned at it, the things that people post blatantly on Twitter and nobody responds. Say something, do something. I don't want an ally. I want an accomplice. I want thousands and thousands of accomplices. That's what we need in this moment. Thank you so much, Carroll Fife. Councilmember Fife.
And our last speaker this morning is our newly elected, can we still say new? First Hmong American Mayor, Mayor Sheng Thao.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Holler. I just want to say thank you so much to Councilmember Fife for bringing us all out here. All of us, the whole community. We are here today for one simple reason. That no one should be harassed for who they are, for what they believe in, not online and not anywhere. Yet far too many women of color, and particularly Black women, are targeted and attacked simply for doing their job, simply for existing, simply because they're breathing the same air that everyone else is breathing. We can all share examples, but there are numbers to back this up if you were thinking that we are exaggerating. A study last year from the Center of Democracy and Technology found that candidates who are women of color are 5 times more likely to report online harassment as their white counterparts. 5 times more. And we already know that's an undercount as well. We know that this happens. And the question becomes why? Why does this happen? And that question is pretty simple to answer as well. It's because there are still far too many people in our society who cannot deal with women of color being in positions of power. These messengers of hate, and that's what they are, messengers of hate, cannot deal with women of color being in leadership and demanding, not asking, but demanding for respect and inclusion. And these voices of toxicity cannot deal with women of color wanting the resources, demanding the resources, demanding the access and opportunities that they have been denied for far too long, for generations. So instead, they attack. They try to demoralize. And when they attack, they're trying to scare elected women of color out of positions of power. But they're also trying to send a message to all women of color to stay in your lane.
That's
stay
right.
in your place.
That's right.
You wait your turn. How many of us have already heard that? I know I have. So here we say to stay in your lane, wait for your turn. This is what we say. Hell no. We will not be discriminated. We will stand together, all of us, beautifully together. And we will send a loud message to those messengers of hate, those messengers who don't want to include us women of color and people of color. The message is, you cannot stop us. Plain and simple. I hope that those listening today will join this call. Change is difficult. Change is very difficult. But change must happen. And change will come. With all of these allies and beautiful women of color and Black women, change will come. Women of color, especially Black women, we will no longer stay silent. We will no longer stay on the sideline. We understand more than anyone else how to create the solutions to ensure that our families have the basic necessities. Because when families who live on the margins have the basic necessity, we know this for a fact as well, that everyone in the community, no matter your color, no matter your socioeconomic status, that we are all lifted. And now why wouldn't we want to lift everybody up? And so I am so proud to be here to stand in solidarity with Councilmember Fife and so many other elected officials and community women, community leaders, women of color, Black women, to say that we will not stay silent. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Okay, well, that was a day. And that was our final speaker, but I do want to acknowledge there are so many organizations who came out to support, so many organizations who signed up to support this effort to denounce the harassment and the violence that's coming up. If I don't say your name, please shout out your organization, because I see all of us are none, and y'all came up and still, thank you so much. I see Oakland Rising, Bay Rising, Black Organizing Project. Who's that? Cause of Who's the Just Cause, Parent Voices, Wellstone, John George Democratic Club. I see local IFPTE, ACE, Moms for Housing, Courage, the Oakland Education Association, our teachers union. Who else am I missing anybody? Bay Rising, Wood Street Commons, E-Base, Anti-Police Terror Project, Community Ready Corps, APEN, San Francisco Foundation. Did I miss anybody? And all of the residents, we have hundreds and hundreds of people who signed on to the petition. We will be also bringing forward legislation to make City Hall safer. I know that's something I've been in conversation with the council president, Councilmember Rebecca Kaplan about, as well as the mayor. So we're working on ways to keep this area safer, because we will be re-entering City Hall very soon. And we want to not just make it safe for us, but for anyone who is coming to lend their voice to the democratic process, because what this essentially is about is limiting democracy. They are seeking to stall and stymie the voices of people who are transforming the very thing that we call government in order to stop the change that they know is so desperately needed. So that is what this is ultimately about. And it's not just people that are calling in after seeing me on Fox News, right? There are also people right here in Oakland who are doing that work. Council President Bass touched on that a little bit. So we're just debating on how detailed we should be about some of these folks that are creating this environment, because sometimes what they want is a platform, right? So it's a debate on what do we call this out, or we just ignore them and we just keep doing the work. So we will definitely keep you posted, and I will also put on my website resources that the National League of Cities has for elected officials in order to start to document these incidents. Because what happened with me is I, for years, have never said anything to anybody about what I go through, what I experience, because I think I'm just a microcosm of what so many people face in society. So why should I talk about it? But I have taken a vow to fight for my constituents and to fight for the residents of this city. And the more that I speak, the more I'm hearing other stories. So I want you all to pay attention. I'll be putting that out on social media, some of the ways that we can start to document these stories, because when we connect the dots and we link up, then we can actually do something incredibly powerful and to push back on the harassment that we're experiencing. At this moment, I will take a couple questions if there are any. If not, I'm going to let people go back on, carry on with their day. Thank you all. Thank you all.
So anything that can be done in terms of legislation, you know, a lot of times you can stand out here and tell people to not say stuff, but is there some legislation that can be enforced?
I know that there are statewide Assemblymember Mia Bonta is working on some legislation. We're going to help her with that because we had a little bit of conversation about it. We'll let you speak in just a second, sis. That I don't feel like it's necessary or it should be required for the individuals who are experiencing harassment to use the money that they raise through campaigning and for community organizing to have to pay for our own security. There is legislation that is pending. I don't think it should be on the backs of women of color who already have a difficult time raising campaign funds to have to raise and pay for their own security services. And I also feel like we should have a system that is actually keeping us safe, right? That should be intrinsic when you step up, because there's so many sacrifices that women take when you run for office. I know men think all the time they can do it, just like I was born ready. But women, it takes a lot to get a woman to run for office. And so when we need that, and we can have yours too. So I'm looking for alternatives for safety that don't require us to pay for it out of our own pockets. That should be actually paying for the services in our community that's required. We will also be working on what we can do locally, because that's statewide legislation. There's federal legislation that exists, but it doesn't trickle down to the local level. But we're in conversation about what that looks like. I have been in conversation with Princeton. They are doing studies on keeping track of all of these incidents. We just saw that a council member in New Jersey was killed driving home. So in her parking lot, she was gunned down. And so we've got to figure out what structures can be put in place so that that doesn't happen, just for stepping up to serve your community. Are there any? Yes.
Could you describe sort of just the, you know, are you seeing waves? You said you've experienced your entire career. Is there a current wave? What do you attribute it to? Yeah, go ahead.
This is going to piss some people off, but I've never been one to try to just make friends just for the sake of it. It goes in waves when there's conversations in City Hall about the Howard Terminal development. So real talk, whenever those conversations happen, the harassment towards me goes way up. The original incident that caused people to flood my voicemail with threats of rape and murder was when our police chief went on Fox News and talked about how Oakland was defunded. That was later debunked, but that set off a wildfire of harassment and death threats that I have never experienced in my life. That's a different type of violence. So those were some of the incidents that caused the waves to happen.
How do you know that you're coming from Oakland?
Oh, because there are Facebook pages, there are groups of individual social media followers. There's a sharp pulling to the right with some conspiracy theories that I'm seeing come through on social media. And you can tell the people who are based here, because sometimes if they're bold enough, they won't just have an emoji or a picture on Twitter. They will actually have their city and where they live. And so we can start to see where some of these people are coming from. They have all kinds of different groups that they circulate in. Oh yeah, and thank you for asking that question, because some of these threats are local and some of them are not. I'm currently, for my particular case, it's under investigation, and I appreciate the Attorney General for reaching out to my office to find out what can possibly be done about the threats that are coming from out-of-state perpetrators. but there's also a police investigation currently underway about what's happening locally.
Have all the threats been online or via voicemail, or have any been in person?
There have been a couple in person.
But after meetings or on the streets?
After press conferences.
Okay.
Right. Well, I was told by Dorsey Nunn that I don't have to worry about that today. But some of them have been in person.
What is your message to these people putting these things online and sending these voices?
My message is the same thing that I posted on Martin Luther King Day. We will not be silenced. We will continue to do the transformative work that it takes to change society, because it does not work for a lot of people. And the individuals who are used to being in positions of power are used to things going their way. And it's a new day. It is very clear that women as legislators create transformative legislation. And that is why the people who elected me set me to this seat. And no matter how many people stand up to say that I should not do it, that for several that I've been threatened with hanging, many things, that I am here to do this work. There are a lot smarter people and stronger people than me who experienced worse. So I'm here for it. So I will not be silenced. We will not be silenced. And we will continue to do this work. We will put that together. I will put together a list of resources and ways that people can get in contact with us if they want to support what we're talking about here today. All right. Yes, ma'am. I don't feel comfortable with that right now. I know you know, but I don't feel comfortable because I think a lot of times these people want attention and they will whip other people into a frenzy that I cannot be sure what people's intentions will be. We've seen what has happened with Nancy Pelosi's husband. We saw that. So we don't know. Your comments have consequences. And there are people intentionally stoking fear and anger and resentment throughout this city. And so when you hear it and when you see it, you call it out. And when somebody brings you, did you know this happened? We need to get together. We need to arm ourselves. What are you talking about? That's not how we do in Oakland. No. So when you see these things, you question it, you call it out, and you tell folks we are not accepting that. We are here for peace. Even if we disagree, we have to figure out how we talk about it. I will talk to anybody and I will work with anyone if your objective is the greater benefit for our society. So let's talk about that. Call it out. When you see it, call it out. When you see something, say something. And that is all for today. Thank you all for coming out this morning.